The conference hall was buzzing with anticipation. On one side, a crowd of political elites and media figures mingled. On the other, a cluster of Hollywood stars and power brokers. Robert De Niro, after months of keeping a low profile, had agreed to attend. He had always been vocal about his disdain for the current political climate, but tonight he would have to sit through it. Then, Donald Trump entered the room, his presence as loud as ever. The man who had once dominated headlines with his brashness, his controversial policies, and his constant media circus. De Niro clenched his jaw. He was used to Trump's larger-than-life persona, but it still infuriated him to see him in the same room, feeding off the attention, pretending to be a man of the people. De Niro's eyes narrowed. Trump spotted him across the room and gave a smug grin. It was as though he relished the fact that De Niro was present, knowing the two of them could never be in the same space without confrontation. The host of the event began speaking, but De Niro wasn't listening. He was already calculating his next move, mentally preparing for the inevitable clash. He had tried to stay civil, to keep his opinions quiet, but it was clear now that this encounter would push him past his breaking point. De Niro, muttering under his breath, "This is ridiculous. He has no place here. He's a joke." But Trump, ever the provocateur, wasn't going to let it slide. Trump, loudly, from across the room. Well, if it isn't the great Robert De Niro. The man who thinks he knows everything, the man who wants to lecture America. What a surprise. De Niro's hands balled into fists at his sides, the tension already mounting between them. He had tried to avoid this, but he knew it was inevitable. Trump was baiting him. And it was working. De Niro, coldly, but with a sharp edge. "I'm not here for your theatrics, Donald. You wanted me here, so here I am." Trump smirked, as if he was enjoying every second of it. Trump, "Oh, I wanted you here all right. It's about time you stopped hiding behind your movie roles and faced the truth. America needs to hear it from someone who isn't afraid to say what's on their mind. Too bad you only have one script to read from." De Niro's fists tightened, but he forced himself to stay calm. This wasn't the time for physical confrontation, not yet. But Trump was digging under his skin, and he could feel the anger rising in him like a storm. The tension in the room thickened. The conference was supposed to be a civil debate, but the real drama was unfolding in the corners. Trump and De Niro, two men who couldn't be more different, were already at war with words. Later that evening, the after-party was in full swing. The wine flowed freely, and the hum of conversations filled the air. But in the corner of the room, there were only two men. Trump was leaning casually against the bar, a glass of water in his hand, eyes scanning the crowd. De Niro stood a few feet away, arms crossed, not even attempting to engage with the partygoers. Trump noticed him almost immediately. Trump, "You know, Bob, you have a real talent for making an entrance. Pity you don't have the same talent for sticking around and actually making a difference." De Niro didn't flinch. He knew where this was going. De Niro, with an icy calmness. "You talk about making a difference? You've done nothing but tear this country apart. You didn't win anything, you infected people with your lies, your anger, and your fear. You're not a leader, you're a charlatan." Trump's smile faded slightly. But he quickly recovered, his voice growing even more condescending. Trump, "Oh, I see. We're still stuck in the past, huh? Let me tell you something, Bob. You can't keep hiding behind your movies. You think people listen to you because of who you were in some movie? They don't. They listen because they think you represent something they want, something they miss. And guess what? I'm giving it to them." De Niro took a step forward, eyes flashing with anger. "De Niro, you're giving them nothing but more chaos. You've weaponized their fear, used their anger for your own gain. You're not a hero. You're a damn villain." The words hung heavy in the air, charged with all the bitterness both men felt. But it was clear that Trump wasn't going to back down, not now, not ever. He thrived on conflict. Trump, leaning in, his voice low. "You know what the problem is with people like you, Bob? You think you have all the answers, but you're just playing a role. I'm out here doing the work, getting my hands dirty. You sit in a chair and talk about what could have been. I do it. And that's why they love me." De Niro felt the anger rise like a tide. He wasn't just angry with Trump anymore. He was angry at himself, angry that he had allowed this man to provoke him so easily. Suddenly, in an outburst of frustration, De Niro lunged forward, grabbing Trump by the collar. The room froze as De Niro's hands tightened around Trump's throat. Trump gasped, but he didn't flinch. The crowd around them scattered, unsure whether to intervene or watch the spectacle unfold. Trump's security team rushed forward, but they hesitated, unsure of what to do with the situation. De Niro's face was inches from Trump's, and for a brief moment, it seemed as if time had stopped. De Niro, through gritted teeth. "You've done enough damage. I'm not going to stand by and watch you destroy everything." Trump's eyes narrowed, a dangerous calm in his expression. Trump calmly, "Let me tell you something, Bobby. You want to get physical? You want to make a spectacle of yourself? You're just giving me what I want. Keep it up, and you'll end up irrelevant. Just like you already are." De Niro's grip tightened for a moment longer, but then something in Trump's words hit him. It wasn't physical violence he needed. It was his voice, his platform. Trump had already won that fight. Trump's smirk only grew wider as De Niro released him. In the days that followed, the media circus around the confrontation reached a fever pitch. Headlines screamed about De Niro's outburst, about Trump's unflinching composure. But it wasn't the physical confrontation that made waves. It was the fact that Trump had once again manipulated the narrative. Trump's supporters rallied around him, claiming that De Niro was a washed-up actor who couldn't handle the pressure. In contrast, De Niro's supporters saw him as a man who was standing up for the truth, a symbol of resistance. But the public's perception was shifting. Every interview, every speech Trump gave painted De Niro as a petty, unhinged critic, while Trump came across as a calm, decisive leader. De Niro, for the first time in years, started to feel a wave of doubt. His career, once untouchable, began to show signs of wear. Offers for new projects dried up. His place in Hollywood, once secure, was now uncertain. Even his loyal fans started questioning whether he had gone too far in his crusade against Trump. And Trump? He capitalized on every bit of it. His approval ratings surged. He held rallies where he mocked De Niro, joking about the incident, all while presenting himself as the man who had the guts to stand up for what America really needed. De Niro, now a shadow of the man he once was, found himself battling both the internal fallout of his actions and the external storm that Trump had orchestrated. His rage had cost him more than he realized. And Trump, as always, was left untouched. The real battle was never about who was right. It was about who controlled the narrative. In the end, Trump stood tall, a victor not only in politics, but in the court of public opinion. De Niro, his anger still simmering but now tempered with regret, disappeared into the shadows, a fading star in a world that no longer cared about his fight.